At this point, I would like to invite everyone who wishes to please stand. As a United Methodist College, DePauw University has always affirmed the connection between mind and spirit, between knowledge and meaning. Therefore, it is appropriate that we maintain the tradition that has been in place for 160 years, the tradition of opening and closing commencement with prayer. Let us pause as I offer an invocation. O one who is truth, who is beauty, who is the God of all peoples, we gather this afternoon to celebrate an important rite of passage, that of graduation. We give you thanks for the faculty who have taught these graduates not only with erudition, but also with passion. We give you thanks for the staff who have provided these graduates with resources to have a life at DePauw instead of just a course of study. We give you thanks for fellow students who have worked and played beside these graduates and formed relationships that will last a lifetime. But most of all, we give you thanks for the graduates themselves. We celebrate the hard work and long hours that have brought them to this day. We celebrate the intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical growth that they have experienced during their years at DePauw. We celebrate that the adolescents who entered this community just a few years ago are sent forth today as adults who are accomplished in the arts, the sciences, and the humanities. We celebrate the potential they have not only for successful and satisfying careers, but for using the privilege of a quality education to make a radical difference in this world. May this hour of contemporary speech and time-honored ritual be an appropriate benediction to honor the achievements of these young women and men and to send them forth with our and your blessing. Amen. I invite you to remain standing for our hymn, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. The words are included in your program.
Be seated. I want to welcome you to the 160th commencement of DePauw University. I began today's ceremony with a few words to the senior class. During your time at DePauw, you've been exposed to many different views of the world. You've engaged faculty to help you sort out your own views and choose the values you will live by. the memories of your many discussions with the faculty who have befriended you will last you for decades, and you will enjoy sustaining these ongoing relationships. If you continue to develop the skills that you learned in writing your research papers, and if you continue to expand the speaking and quantitative skills that you began to develop at DePauw, your education here should be a strong foundation for what you will continue to learn over a lifetime. While your academic experiences provide the bedrock for your future educational development, there's no doubt that while you've been a student at DePauw, your out-of-class endeavors also provided a laboratory for growth. As seniors, you have participated in self-governance, you've worked in many campus organizations, you've been exposed to life outside of DePauw through your winter term experiences and your internships. Some of you have been involved in hundreds of hours of community service during your 4 years, and you've learned what other people before you have discovered. True fulfillment comes through helping others. Now you are prepared to benefit from your life at DePauw. Some of you will move directly into your first jobs and do so very soon. Others of you will attend graduate or professional schools. As your undergraduate experience at DePauw comes to a close today, we take time out for this important celebration. So as you wait for your name to be called and your degree conferred, I invite you to spend some time reflecting on your own accomplishments and offering your thanks for the faculty, for their leadership in shaping your education. You spent 4 years in an atmosphere of intellectual challenge, and today the faculty has judged you worthy of the degrees that you will receive this afternoon. While we gather today to congratulate you on your academic achievements, we should also recognize another very special group of people, your families. Your families undoubtedly are proud of you today. Your education would not have been possible without their support. I would like to ask the families of this year's graduating class to please stand so that we can salute you with our applause. I would now like to call on Ryan James Dank to bring you greetings on behalf of his class. Ryan is the recipient of the Walker Cup, which is DePauw's award made annually to that member of the senior class who has done the most for DePauw in his or her 4 years here. Today, Ryan will receive his Bachelor of Arts degree in political science. He has served as president of the student body and chair of the Greek Judicial Board. Ryan served his fraternity as its treasurer, and he worked for the DePauw newspaper. In the 4 years I have known Ryan, I watched him mature into a student leader who has become an integral part of the process to improve the lives of all DePauw students. As Ryan assumes his place at the University of Michigan Law School next fall, I trust his intellect will continue to flourish as it has flourished here over the last 4 years. While at DePauw, Ryan was an honor scholar, a consistent member of the Dean's List, and was rewarded for his academic achievements by being elected to Phi Beta Kappa. I present to you Ryan Danks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bottoms. I appreciate the introduction. It was difficult for me to figure out what I wanted to talk to you all today. After last year's address, the only advice I could get from people was not to sing. Given my experience of being thrown out of the church choir, that was really never much of an issue. So I thought instead I would share with you today some of the lessons that I learned here at DePauw. The most important lesson I think I learned was about sharing, and it was my freshman roommate, Jimmy LaBarbera, who taught it to me. I shared some of Jimmy's yoo-hoo with some of the guys on the floor. Jimmy was then kind enough to let me know that there was nowhere, anywhere in Greencastle where you could buy yoo-hoo. He then shared with me some of his moves that he learned as a high school wrestler. Thank you, Jimmy, wherever you are out here, for that important lesson. But a little bit more seriously, though, we learned how to care for each other. We learned to stay up all night for the friends who just broke up and thought their life would end, or to help the friend stay awake who had the paper or project to finish tomorrow. We learned how to help each other get through the hard nights next day. We learned to value each other even more when we came back from campus as seniors after having left as juniors and gone abroad for a year somewhere. We found out when we were gone that it really wasn't the buildings that we missed, or, with all due respect, the administration or the faculty. It wasn't even Marvin's, it was each other. And that's the one thing that I keep hearing time and time again as I talk to everybody as we're leaving. And that is, it's the people that we're going to miss because it's the people who provided the memories. We learned with each other as seniors when we got our first jobs. Jeff, you'll understand what I mean here one of these days. When we got our first admits to grad school, and even, for some of us, our first and hopefully last engagements. But we also, as a class, learned how to contribute to our university, as groups and as individuals. We worked together to make everybody's life here a little bit better. We had thousands of hours of community service, almost all of which was voluntary. We had hundreds of people marching. That would be opposed to court-ordered for all of the parents out there in the crowd. We had hundreds of people marching with Valerie, among others, to help protest the counseling situation. The football team, Io and Seacrest and Jonathan and everyone, brought us back the bell our sophomore year and helped keep it here, and we're expecting that next year, too, for any of the underclassmen that are still in the crowd. We have a new discriminatory harassment policy. We have a new SRC policy, one that we think is actually working. We had Dave Matthews, alternative housing, Relay for Life, concerts, plays, basketball games, and I've just begun to scratch the surface here. DePauw students aren't really often thought as activists. We don't think of ourselves that way. We're not often perceived that way by those of us who know us. But I really don't believe that that's the case. I believe that our class has worked very hard to make a difference on this campus, that we are not apathetic, that we're not lackadaisical, and I think that we have the record to prove it. I'd like to close with a few words of thanks to the people who have made such a big difference to our experiences here. Thanks to our friends who kept by us in the good times and bad. Thanks to those who kept pushing the edges of the DePauw bubble to see how far it would go without bursting. Thanks to those who encouraged us to get off the sidelines and to get involved in campus life in the student community. Jenny Klein, wherever you are, thank you. Thanks to the administrators. You aren't always given the benefit of the doubt or the credit that you deserve, but for all the time and energy and dedication that you put into this place and into our education. Thank you to the faculty. Every student here has one story, or 2 or 3 or 10, of a time when you reached out to us to help us to learn or to help us through a difficult time. You're more than our teachers and our advisors. You're our mentors and our friends, and we thank you for everything that you've taught us. And finally, last but without doubt, the greatest thank you must go to our parents. When we doubted, you provided encouragement. When we grew tired, or maybe even a little bit lazy, you helped pushed and pulled to keep us going. When we stumbled, you provided support. To all of our parents, our families, our friends who have come to help us celebrate our graduation today, thank you. We could not have done this without you. And finally, to my classmates, thank you. I'm done. It's under 5 minutes long and I didn't sing. Thanks to all of you for a great 4 years. Congratulations, good luck. Goodbye.
This year's commencement speaker, Judson Green, in many ways symbolizes what we want for all DePauw graduates. He has been enormously successful in his chosen career, and your program outlines many of his accomplishments as the chair of Walt Disney Attractions. Judson has also used his abilities not only to become a successful business executive, but he has also focused what at times seems like boundless energy to improve society. He spent his adult life devising ways to improve the environment, and he has been widely recognized for his efforts. Judson is also a person dedicated to sharing his abilities with young people. He has served as a tireless member of DePauw's Board of Trustees, and he has been one of the board's most outspoken members in working to improve DePauw for all students. He is particularly interested in promoting ways to help young people develop leadership skills, and he has taught leadership not only through his involvement with DePauw, but also at the Disney Institute. Judson has successfully worked in business, given of himself to improve society, and finally continued to cultivate another lifelong interest, playing the piano. Mr. Green, as all of us who have heard him play will attest, is an accomplished jazz musician. Judson, we welcome you to this commencement today, and we look forward to hearing the words you plan to share with us. Judson?
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, graduates, parents, family members, faculty, and administration. It's my pleasure and honor to be with you all today. As a trustee of the university, I try to keep up with campus events. I have even remained a faithful reader of the campus student newspaper, the DePauw. And what an interesting read it has been this spring. Of course, I'm referring to Belle the psychic dog. For you parents, Belle is a golden retriever whose owner is Sean Cerisi, a graduating senior. Belle has been dispensing quite a bit of advice to the students on everything from romance to predicting what team is going to the Super Bowl. Aside from the articles on Belle, the other interesting reading in the DePauw, which has been of special interest to me, has been the controversy surrounding this year's commencement. Some students expressed disappointment in the selection of this year's commencement speaker. Let me share just a few of their comments directed to the administration. I am shocked and ashamed by your office's decision. I believe that would be you, President Bottoms. For the 1999 commencement speaker, I believe that would be me. The commencement committee feels that the most important criteria is that the speaker be female. Strike one. The committee also feels that the speaker should bring a perspective from somewhere other than a DePauw background. Strike two. And finally, the committee does not recall Mr. Green's name ever being submitted on any list submitted by any member of the committee. Strike three. Well, it's pretty obvious that I didn't fit the criteria that some students identified for a speaker, and I respect those students' opinions very much. So on the horns of this dilemma, the committee and I did what any DePauw senior would do in a crisis. We consulted Belle the psychic dog. And Belle helped us, as she has so many others this year. She gave me a command, which she herself has received so many times. She said, "Speak." And so in the end, we all took her advice, and it was agreed that I should speak. And I would very much appreciate it if we could show some appreciation to Belle the psychic dog. Belle just took a bow wow. After I was convinced I should speak, I had to decide what I would speak about. And so I decided to get in touch with you seniors to learn more about the DePauw experience and your thoughts about the future. Fortunately, I could do this quickly via the marvel of today's email technology. When I was here 25 years ago, the only website we had was the one spun by the spiders in a corner of the basement of East College. So I sent out an email with 6 questions for you to answer. In the midst of studying like crazy for finals, enjoying your last few parties, and getting ready for graduation, 6.5% of you took the time to respond. Now, I realize that not everyone checks his or her email every day, but still a less than 7% response seemed a bit low to me. So I asked our research and statistics people at Disney for their opinion. They told me a 6.5% response would be considered abysmal in, say, a gubernatorial election, but on the other hand, for a magazine sweepstakes mailing, a 6.5% return would be an unbelievable home run. That is to say, while I am nowhere near as inspiring as Jesse Ventura, I still managed to outshine Ed McMahon. I do want to assure you that I read and enjoyed every one of your emails. By the way, those of you who attached your resumes, nice move. The Disney recruiter will meet you at Marvin's right after this ceremony. From your emails, I see that some things at DePauw clearly haven't changed. The Boulder Run, which is DePauw's traditional streaking ritual, still seems to be alive and well. This particular tradition, I should point out, is neither sanctioned by the university, nor is it always without consequence. I am thinking in particular of one of today's graduates who told me in his email that he finished his Au Naturel run at his fraternity house just in time to find his girlfriend, her mother, and her mother's best friend walking in the front door. I know you know who you are out there. I have just 4 words for this young man today. Keep your gown on. I must say, however, that I was tremendously impressed by the optimism and ambition so many of you expressed. This is definitely a class of seniors who want to balance their spirituality, their happiness, and their checkbooks. In just 5 years from now, you told me you expect to be successful in pursuing and realizing your dreams, whether that's raising a family, getting that TV news anchor job, or becoming an ordained Methodist minister. Not that everyone here shares such grand ambitions. One modest but honest senior wrote me that after leaving DePauw, she eagerly looks forward to having her own room. I do realize that there are days on campus that seems like the greatest luxury imaginable. I was very pleased with your email responses, but today I was hoping we might achieve a 100% response rate. With that in mind, I'd like to ask all our graduating seniors some questions, and I'd like you to be honest. If you ever cut a class at DePauw, please stand up. If you ever skipped a test, please remain standing. Don't worry, as far as I know, DePauw cannot legally issue a manufacturer's recall on baccalaureate degrees. You may be seated. Now, if I may get a bit more personal, if you have ever done anything during your 4 years at DePauw that your parents don't know about and would never believe, please stand. I thought that would be unanimous. Please don't sit down yet. If you did something at any graduation party over the last 3 nights that even you don't believe you did, please remain standing. I assume those of you who sat down simply don't remember what you did. Please be seated. I think fair is fair, however. I now would like to turn to everyone else here today, parents, guests, and especially our esteemed faculty. Please be just as forthright as our graduates have been. If you all have done anything in the past 25 years that you'd prefer these seniors not know about, please stand. That can't be everybody. By the way, if you ever wore a lime green leisure suit or hosted a Tupperware party, you probably should be standing. I hope all of this makes for some interesting dinner conversation tonight. And please note that for all of these questions, I've remained standing. I shared this little exercise with you because it helps to put us all on a level playing field. All of us here today, students, parents, faculty, have at certain times in our lives thrown caution to the wind in the spirit of the moment. And although we may think of it as the prerogative of youth, feeling free and independent and unfettered by convention is what we all need from time to time. To the parents and relatives in the audience who have had a long, enduring, emotional, and in many cases financial stake in today's ceremony, let me say that my wife, Joyce, and I can totally relate. Our only children are twins, Jamie and Julie, who also graduate from college this month. And although we have anxieties, as you do, about what our children will face as they begin to make their way, we take solace from the fact that our children are principled, independent, and they have a sense of humor. I was vividly reminded of this last year when, after searching for months for a summer job, Julie came to us and proclaimed with great jubilation, "Mom, Dad, I made it. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to be a White House intern." It's okay, you're allowed to giggle. As you can imagine, Joyce and I worried that we would be making a huge mistake in letting her go. But we acquiesced, and Julie forged ahead and completed her internship. It turned out to be a terrific experience for her, working in the White House press office and literally seeing one of the more interesting chapters in American history unfold. I must admit, though, I breathed a sigh of relief when, upon arriving home, she proclaimed, "Don't worry, Dad, the only hug I got in the White House was from Buddy the dog." Sorry, Belle. I must admit that it is a bit intimidating to give a commencement speech anytime, much less on the verge of the new millennium. One might be inclined to eloquently sum up all of the knowledge that the human race has accumulated in the last 1,000 years, and if there's still a few minutes left, prescribe humanity's course for the next 1,000 years. I am not sure that someone from my generation is qualified to predict your future. I'll remind you that during my generation's watch, we've experienced 2 presidential impeachments, degradation in our social security system, an increase in crime and violence, and numerous environmental disasters, just to name a few. To our credit, however, we did come up with Ziploc bags and Post-it notes. Even the most brilliant minds and successful organizations have been, on occasion, incredibly nearsighted when imagining the future. It was none other than Walt Disney's brother and business partner, Roy Disney, who once said, "Mickey Mouse is passé. Nobody cares about him anymore. I think we ought to phase him out." It was AT&T, the telecommunications giant, who in '84 turned down an opportunity to enter the cellular phone business because their forecasters predicted it would be too small a market to bother with. It was Bill Gates, the richest person in the world and arguably the most well-known CEO on the planet, who in 1981 made the pronouncement that 640 kilobytes ought to be enough for anyone. And it was some poor anonymous computer programmer, I like to imagine he's called Al, innocently sitting at his desk back in the 60s, who proudly devised a way to save a little bit of disk storage and a little bit of money by only inputting the last 2 digits of every year in his computer programs. Others adopted his seemingly good idea. $1 trillion later, we just about have this problem under control. So it simply seems too risky for me to try to predict the future and summarize what you should do about it. Instead, given all the uncertainty, I believe it's probably best to heed the sage advice from one of America's best-known philosophers and one-time catcher for the New York Yankees, Yogi Berra, who once advised, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. So today, instead of pontificating about the new millennium and prognosticating the future, I prefer to talk about the baggage that I took with me when I left DePauw. Now, when I say baggage, I'm not talking emotional baggage, I'm not talking American Tourister. I'm talking about what I put in the big cardboard box which I packed on my last day at DePauw. Each graduate here knows what I'm talking about. Right now, there are no more decisions more momentous than whether you're going to take home your invertebrate biology textbook, the Bare Naked Lady CDs, and the '97 Spring Break Budweiser beer mug. Or are you going to throw them all away to make more room in your car for the large Labrador dog that your roommate's best friend couldn't take with her because she's starting work next week in Manhattan? You'll probably do what I did. You'll quickly sort out what you think might be meaningful or what you just can't bear to part with, and then you'll put it all in a big box and shove the box into a closet where it will sit undisturbed for decades to come, or until someone in your family asks, "What in the world are you saving all that stuff for?" Well, as I was contemplating coming here and speaking to you today, I actually located my box and I brought it with me. And you know, I'm really glad I saved some of this stuff. For example, these are my jazz albums. I spent many long hours listening to these, trying to learn everything I could about jazz, and then playing in jazz compos here and at DePauw and in Bloomington and Chicago, trying to apply everything I learned. I guess I was initially attracted to jazz because it seemed like it was so much fun and so spontaneous. As I delved deeper into it, I learned that this very distinctive form of music was born in this country, in this century. It evolved here only because of the diversity with which this country is blessed. You see, jazz came about because of the dissonance, if you will, of African melodies and rhythms clashing with European harmonies and instruments. Its richness comes from its acceptance of diverse ideas from diverse individuals. During college, I vividly remember attending a jam session in Chicago one Sunday afternoon where professional jazz musicians were invited to come and rotate in and out of the group. Each soloist took turns showcasing how creatively his own ideas could be woven into the structure of an otherwise ordinary song. While I was in awe of the very distinctive and creative contribution that each musician made to the song, I slowly began to appreciate the broader concept of what I was observing. You see, for a jazz group to truly be successful, each musician needs to respect and value each other. If the musicians don't listen carefully to each other, if they don't acknowledge the special contribution which each makes, and if they don't seek to build upon each other's ideas, the group will never transcend beyond a collection of individuals, and the music will never be distinctive. Certainly, the art form of jazz and the best jazz musicians embrace diversity. But I believe for any individual to truly be effective and successful in this new millennium, he or she must embrace diversity. Embrace it as one of your core beliefs or values. Embrace it as a behavior that you practice every day. Embrace it as a lifelong pursuit. In today's society, one must genuinely respect and value the differences among us. As a virtue, the mere tolerance of people different from you is no longer sufficient. The stakes have been raised. Our world is changing at an accelerating pace. Globalization is turning the world into one community. Barriers and borders continue to fall, whether it's attributable to the internet or social pressure. Today, more than ever, we share one another's fate. But embracing diversity is not just about people. It extends to ideas as well. We must constantly seek out the perspectives and ideas of others, even if they clash with our own. This pursuit will not only prove to be intellectually stimulating, it will also lead to higher levels of creativity, because I have found that diversity is the essence of creativity. Too often we look only to ourselves and a small circle of familiar and similar faces to seek answers to our questions and solutions to our problems. I have found that creativity and innovation and excellence do not thrive in this kind of insular environment. Perhaps each of us has to find the meaning of diversity in our own way, but I promise each graduate here today, your growth as an individual will be severely constrained if you don't embrace diversity. The journey is well worth the effort. Here's a very interesting and inspirational book, first published when I was at DePauw by an amazing lady, Dr. Maya Angelou, one of America's few poet laureates. I'm sure many of you are familiar with I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, the first in a series of autobiographies by Dr. Angelou. I tossed it in my box, not imagining that I'd ever have the opportunity to meet her, let alone get to know her. But as it turns out, I have had the great privilege of spending time with Maya in recent years, not just from some Disney projects she's worked on, but recently from spending time with her in her home in North Carolina. When Dr. Angelou addressed our cast at Walt Disney World, she captivated us with her poetry and her ideas. Her comments were so rich about life and the values that we should all hold dear as our lives unfold. When one of our cast members asked her if there were one value more important than any other, she referenced Aristotle and responded, "Of all the virtues, courage is the most important. Because without courage, she explained, we simply cannot uphold our other values in the face of adversity. I will not stand here and pretend to lecture you on exactly what your values should be, but I will emphasize the importance of courage because of the challenges and adversity that I know you will face in your lifetime. All of us can think of individuals whose acts of extraordinary courage are well known and have been celebrated. Individuals such as Nelson Mandela, who chose incarceration in prison over apartheid. John Glenn, who proved to the world that there are literally no limits that need to be imposed by age. Mother Teresa, who put herself in harm's way to uphold the human dignity of those who were normally cast out by society. Christopher Reeve, who will forever change the way Americans view people with disabilities. But every day in our lives, there are situations that confront us which call for us to exercise courage. Whether it's facing a frightening medical diagnosis or condition, questioning what we perceive might be an unethical decision made by someone in authority, or speaking up when a friend makes a comment that is sexist or racist. There are thousands of everyday examples of courage, anonymous and unsung. When many years have passed and you look back on how you've lived your life, I hope you will each have the satisfaction of knowing that given the cards that you were dealt, you lived your life with courage. Imagine the consequences if the following everyday people had not made the choice to be courageous. What if Rosa Parks had agreed to move to the back of the bus that day? What if Oskar Schindler had sent his Jewish factory workers to their deaths? What if David Kaczynski had denied his suspicions about his brother Ted? I know we've all heard it time and time again, but one person truly can make a difference, and each of us has the opportunity to be that person throughout our lifetime. Of all the many great DePauw students who have preceded us, I am most moved by the words of Margaret Mead, a distinguished author and anthropologist. She once said, "Never doubt that one individual or a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Now here's something that I liked a great deal. I ran across it when I was reading about the history of my fraternity. It's a quotation from Calvin Coolidge that I had framed. And although he may not have been one of our most eloquent presidents, this quote about perseverance struck a chord with me. Calvin Coolidge said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful people with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, 'Press On,' has solved and will always solve the problems of the human race." I mentioned casually to Joyce, my wife, that I was thinking about referencing Calvin Coolidge's quote about persistence. She smiled, and it was one of those big smiles that signals me she has more to say. "Why are you smiling?" I asked. "Well, maybe you've forgotten, Judson, but for at least 10 years after we left DePauw, you kept a copy of that quote in your wallet." I had forgotten. In my search for success following DePauw, I grasped on to that quotation literally. I guess I considered that quote as a ticket to my success, and so I embraced it, I internalized it, and I envisioned myself being successful. Mind you, I had no clue at the time exactly what I was going to do, but that wasn't important. And as I have now learned with the passage of time, none of us can hope to be the most educated or the most gifted or to be blessed with unlimited resources. However, we can adopt the simple trait of persistence, of being determined to accomplish whatever it is we set our mind to, no matter what challenges and disappointments present themselves. There is a wonderful story about Thomas Edison, a man who was certainly among this century's most prolific dreamers. When we talk about today's wired society, we really ought to give credit to the man who first convinced people to adopt the then preposterous idea of running live electrical wire into their homes, and who then proceeded to sell them the applications that went with it, beginning with the electric light. But even for Edison, invention did not come easily. He tried over 2,000 experiments before he was able to get his light bulb to work. Upon being asked how he felt about failing so many times, he replied, "I never failed once. I invented the light bulb. It just happened to be a 2,000-step process." Regardless of your grade point average, your talents, and your resources, regardless of whether today your dreams are clear or fuzzy, Embrace the idea that if you persist and are determined to succeed at whatever you choose, you will. And finally, of course, I save my yearbook. A college yearbook is a reminder of the relationships we had here at DePauw. Some deep, some shallow, some lasting, some fleeting, some realized, some missed. It's also a reminder of the sense of community that we had here. As I flipped through the pages last week, I was reminded of some of the community service projects we worked on while we were here. I was reminded that DePauw has a tradition of stimulating its students to get involved in helping other people. I was reminded that beyond the classrooms, and in spite of the perception that we all lived in a bubble, DePauw did enhance most students' sense of community and connection with other people. As a DePauw alum, I'm enormously proud of the extent to which you have given your time and effort to make a difference in the lives of others. I'm enormously proud of how DePauw and its students have received national distinction for their commitment to community. Winston Churchill once said, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." As you begin your careers and your life's pursuits, I urge you to open your hearts to the needs of others. Make it a point to reach out in the years ahead, not only because society desperately needs you to, not only because it's a DePauw legacy to lead and serve others, but because it is your connection with other people and a lifetime of giving that will ultimately bring you the most satisfaction in your life. Clearly, these items that I packed in my box 25 years ago didn't have the meaning then that they do now. For that matter, even these DePauw buildings which surround us represent more to me today than they did 25 years ago. It was just over there in Asbury Hall where I took classes from some great professors, Jerry Warren and Perk Allen, who are no longer with us today, and Ralph Gray and Al Pankratz. They became my mentors. More than mentors, they became legends in my mind, not only for what they taught me, because they taught me how to think critically about new ideas, but how they taught me, because they inspired me to pursue excellence. It was just a ways down College Avenue in my fraternity house where I learned that not all of us share the same set of values. And when we don't, common understanding and cooperation become infinitely more difficult to realize. It was just over there in that administration building where my unsuccessful appeal to the dean to overturn our fraternity's social probation gave me the first taste of the frustration that comes from not being able to always realize the outcomes you believe in. It was just over there in what used to be the original music building where I would go to play the piano late into the night to seek refuge, inspiration, and connection with myself. And it was just over there by that oak tree next to East College where during a visit to DePauw, our twins, Jamie and Julie, took their very first steps 20 years ago. For each of you, this place called DePauw holds the beginning of a lifetime of memories that will be full of learnings and discovery, fulfillment and disappointment, joy and even sadness. Regardless of what you take with you today, in your box or otherwise, you will each come to realize over time that it was here at DePauw where an appreciation, a respect, and a love began for so many subjects, so many people, so many ideas yet unspoken. As I contemplate this day of celebration and the wonderful opportunities that lay ahead for each of you, I'm reminded of Dr. Maya Angelou once again and her reference to music composition as a metaphor for life. She said, "Each of us is at once both a composition and a composer. Each of us is a composition because our lives reflect in some small way all the experiences we've had and all the people we've encountered throughout our life. But at the same time, each of us is a composer because we have the ability to shape our life and the lives of everyone around us with our words, our actions, our behaviors. I wish for each of you that you embrace the role of composer, and beginning today, you compose each day of your life. And in composing your life, remember to embrace diversity, exercise courage, persevere in all that you pursue and dream to do, and most importantly, open your hearts to others, because the gifts you give over a lifetime will be the source of your lasting joy. Congratulations, and God bless the DePauw class of '99.
I would now like to call on Timothy H. Ubben, Chair of the Board of the Trustees, to assist me. Mr. Ubben, these persons have been recommended by the faculty as having met all conditions for graduation from DePauw University. I therefore ask you, Mr. Ubben, as the Chair of the Board of Trustees, to authorize me to advance them to their degrees.
Mr. President, the Board of Trustees of DePauw University, by its unanimous vote, now authorizes you to confer degrees upon all candidates, including honorary degrees, Bachelor of Musical Arts, Bachelor of Music, and Bachelor of Arts.
I would now call on Dr. Neil Abram to present the candidates for honorary degrees.
Mr. President, it is my honor and privilege to present Richard W. Peck, a 1956 DePauw graduate, an award-winning author of books for young adults, and a dedicated educator for the degree of Doctor of Letters.
Richard W. Peck, you have made outstanding contributions to the field of education, both as a teacher and an author of young people's books. You take the time to talk with young adults across the country and listen to what is on their minds. As a result, you are able to address in your books many of the contemporary social issues facing the young, including divorce, broken families, and drug and alcohol use. Your informed writing not only is popular with young readers, but also helps us all to better understand some of the difficult issues presented by modern society. You are a prolific author, having written more than 20 books, and several of the books have received awards. Your book, Strays Like Us, was named among the best books for young adults in 1998. And for your recent book, A Long Way from Chicago, you will receive the John Newbery Silver Medal in June 1999. Upon the recommendation of the faculty, the Board of Trustees has authorized me to confer upon you, Richard W. Peck, the honorary degree of Doctor of Letters. As a symbol thereof, I invest you with this hood and give you this diploma bearing the great seal of the corporation and the signatures of the proper officials.
How grateful I am to be back at DePauw Commencement 43 years after my first one. I've spent most of the intervening years as a writer for young people. Through the era in which literacy in American schools has become an elective. And so I write in the hope that some young people will come of age with books in their hands. A novelist's great need is to give life a shape, and today shapes mine. DePauw was the best of beginnings, the ideal opening chapter. It pointed the way to the world, it made no promises, and it directed a lifetime of reading. It was the DePauw of the 1950s, the golden 1950s, a time made safer by diagrammed sentences. I am grateful for the professor now in charge of some celestial classroom, who looked out over us the first morning and said, "I give 2 A's in this class. I wonder who you are." I am grateful to the draft board of Decatur, Illinois, for the 4 years of student deferment before the inevitable calling up. And I am grateful to Professor Arthur Shoemaker of the English department, here today and always in my heart, because he warned me to vary the lengths of my sentences, and I got a career out of it. It was honor enough to attend DePauw, honor indeed to be back. Thank you.
Mr. President, it is my further honor and privilege to present Mary R. Roberts, a 1948 DePauw graduate and an outstanding civic leader who has devoted herself to the improvement of her community and her alma mater for the degree of Doctor of Public Service.
Mary R. Roberts, throughout your career you have put into practice the ideals of civic responsibility and leadership which DePauw University works to instill in its students. By adhering to a set of moral values and fulfilling a strong commitment to your community, you have had an impact on the quality of life of others and contributed to the betterment of society. As an officer of community-based foundations, you have helped to support many worthy projects, especially education, health care, hospitals, and human services. In addition, you have given unselfishly of yourself in a variety of civic service efforts, such as your local library and daycare services for children. You have worked to support higher education through your membership on the Board of Trustees of DePauw University, as well as the Board of Northern Illinois University Foundation. You are truly a model and an inspiration for us today. Upon the recommendation of the faculty, the Board of Trustees has authorized me to confer upon you, Mary R. Roberts, the honorary degree of Doctor of Public Service. As a symbol thereof, I invest you with this hood and give you this diploma bearing the Great Seal of the corporation and the signatures of the proper officials.
When I received a letter from President Bottoms inviting me to accept an honorary degree of Doctor of Public Service, I was surprised and flattered. Then I remember all the bright, talented people I have known through my DePauw experience and hope they would feel part of this honor. My thanks go to the faculty, administration, and my ever-supportive family. DePauw has been a wonderful part of my life, and I shall always be grateful. And finally, to DePauw's graduates, congratulations and good luck.
Mr. President, I am also honored by the privilege to present Ian M. Rowland, a 1955 DePauw graduate who has distinguished himself nationally and internationally as a visionary leader in the financial services industry and on the boards of directors of several corporations, for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters.
Ian M. Rowland, you have demonstrated exceptional leadership, not only in directing and strengthening a Fortune 500 company, but also in showing genuine care for the company's employees and an understanding of the work and family issues that employees face. You are a strong believer in the concept of corporate responsibility, and you guided Lincoln National Corporation in taking a leading role in civic projects in the home community of Fort Wayne, Indiana, as well as other locations where the company does business. Your steadfast commitment to these values is reflected in Lincoln National Corporation's reputation as a progressive company and in its outstanding financial success. While you continue to share your vast business knowledge as a member of several corporate boards, you view your retirement from Lincoln National as an opportunity to contribute further by pursuing projects in the nonprofit sector. Upon the recommendation of the faculty, the Board of Trustees has authorized me to confer upon you, Ian M. Rowland, the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. As a symbol thereof, I invest you with this hood and give you this diploma, bearing the Great Seal of the corporation and the signatures of the proper officials.
Thank you to the Board of Trustees and to the faculty for this significant honor. Receiving an honorary degree is is quite a significant honor in itself, but receiving one from your alma mater is extra special, and receiving one from DePauw is really as good as it gets. I should say that thinking back on my career here as an undergraduate, a lot of the professors that I had in a variety of classes then would be very surprised to see me standing here today. But all of my associations with this marvelous institution have been positive. As an undergraduate from 1951 to 55, I made friendships and developed relationships with my classmates that remain today. I also have become a believer in the liberal arts education. The variety of ideas and experiences that I had here on the DePauw campus have stood me in good stead in almost everything I've done over the past 40 years. And then finally, the opportunity to serve as a member of the Board of Trustees of this institution over the last 20 years and chairman for 3 years has been especially gratifying for me, as I've had the opportunity to work with the faculty, administration, alumni, and students to make DePauw an even better place. To the class of 1999, I wish you well as you join the family of DePauw graduates. You will find there a loyal and dedicated group of people committed to making DePauw the best institution possible. I hope you will all find that your experience here at DePauw was as valuable to you as it has been to me. I'm proud to have been a part of your graduation ceremony. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, it is my distinct honor and privilege to present W. Allen Walker, a 1959 DePauw graduate who has served with distinction as a professor at Harvard University Medical School and who has made significant contributions to the field of pediatric medicine for the degree of Doctor of Science.
W. Allen Walker, you have distinguished yourself and brought honor to your alma mater through your significant contributions to the field of pediatric medicine and nutrition. You have been a leader in your role as chief of the combined program in pediatric, gastroenterology, and nutrition at Harvard Medical School, Massachusetts General Hospital, and the Children's Hospital. Through your extensive research, study, and writings, you have contributed greatly to the body of knowledge in the field of pediatric medicine and nutrition, thus benefiting the welfare of future generations. As a professor at Harvard Medical School, you have shared your knowledge with medical students who will have the opportunity to build on your work and further benefit humankind, which is the mark of a true teacher. You have been recognized for your work by medical organizations both nationally and internationally. Upon the recommendation of the faculty, the Board of Trustees has authorized me to confer upon you, W. Allen Walker, the honorary degree of Doctor of Science. As a symbol thereof, I invest you with this hood and give you this diploma bearing the great seal of the corporation and the signatures of the proper officials.
President Bottoms, Dean Abraham, graduates and guests, I want to thank the faculty and the Board of Trustees of DePauw for granting me this wonderful honor. If I may, I would like to share a few words with today's graduates. I came to DePauw in the mid-50s because it was my belief in the importance of a liberal arts college education, and this school had a strong reputation for such an education. When I graduated 4 years later and was accepted into medical school, I was confident that my education at DePauw had prepared me well for the next step in life's journey. Now, 40 years later, I stand before you today absolutely convinced that my education at DePauw was, in fact, a wonderful preparation for life's journeys. You graduates today have just finished the beginning step and are well situated for the ongoing journey. I wish you well. Thank you.
I would now like to call on Dr. Patricia Jones, Dean of the School of Music, to present the candidates for the Bachelor of Musical Arts and Bachelor of Music.
Let the candidates for the degrees of Bachelor of Musical Arts and Bachelor of Music please stand. Mr. President, it is a pleasure to present to you the candidates for the degrees for Bachelor of Musical Arts and Bachelor of Music.
On the recommendation of the faculty, the Board of Trustees of DePauw University grants to you severally the degrees of Bachelor of Musical Arts and Bachelor of Music, which admits you to the fellowship of educated men and women everywhere. I now therefore present to you your official diploma bearing the Great Seal of the Corporation and the appropriate signatures.
Will the first row of candidates please remain standing? Others may be seated. Erin Jane Hartzler. Brian Mark Hirsch. Lori Sanaya Ono. Erilyn Sue Yavorsky. Heather Nicole Aldrich, cum laude. Jennifer Lynn Bachert. Mitchell David Beyer. Lauren Elizabeth Bennett. Elizabeth Jensen Curtis, magna cum laude. Andrew Lane Hamrick, magna cum laude. Jean Marie Henning, cum laude. Marlena Nadine Hooker. Roberta Marie Jensen. Charles Robert Keene II, summa cum laude. Courtney Lynn Keith. Sarah Neal Keith. Rebecca Ann McConnell. Todd David Miller. Caroline Eileen Nagy. Megan Elizabeth Patterson. Catherine Beth Taylor. Thomas James Venatolo. Catherine Marie Wendt. Farah Marie Wingate, cum laude.
I would now call on Dr. Neil Abram, Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the Faculty, to present the candidates for Bachelor of Arts.
Will the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts please stand? Mr. President, it is my honor and pleasure to present to you the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
On the recommendation of the faculty, the Board of Trustees of DePauw University grants to you severally the degree of Bachelor of Arts, which admits you to the fellowship of educated men and women everywhere. I now therefore present to you your official diploma bearing the Great Seal of the corporation and the appropriate signatures.
Will the first row of BA candidates please remain standing? Others may be seated. Those persons listed on the program whose names are not called this afternoon will receive their degrees in absentia. I would also ask the audience to withhold applause until all candidates have received their diplomas. Ramona Marie Harvey. Ryan James Dax, magna cum laude. Christina Lynn Adams. Amy Clover Allemeyer, magna cum laude. Lyra Elizabeth Eichinger. Raymond Francis Albin, cum laude. Marissa Elaine Altman. Erica Kathleen Amoni, cum laude. Erica Kathleen Admonson. Jared Matthew Anderson. Kelly Michael Applegate. Brian D. Arnold. David James Atterbury. Paul Michael Aveles. Lori Lynn Baleda. Jennifer Paige Bailey. Susan Jane Baker. John Howard Bankhurst. Elise Joyce Barney. Hugh Cabot Bartlett, Jr. Sherry Lopp Basinger. Orlando Renee Bazan. Emily Roots Belkey. Jessica Reagan Beatty. Valerie Noel Beauchamp. Anne Sweeney Becker, summa cum laude. Kimberly Ann Beckett. Vanessa Lee Beamer. Michael A. Bell, cum laude. Susan Alice Bender, cum laude. Clarissa Jeanette Beng, cum laude. Bernie S. Bernhardt. Daniel Patrick Burns. Susanna Marie Beimer. Jason Todd Bird. Gretchen Lynn Blades. Annalisa Marie Boatman, cum laude. Paula Jo Boback. Shane A. Bolton, summa cum laude. Rochelle Jean Bolyard. Tiffany Ann Booth. Kathleen Lydia Barisiak. Dana Starr Bowen. Taryn Groves Brand. Andrea Dawn Brashear. Janet Louise Briner. Jennifer Lucille Briscoe. Zachary Gage Brogan. Christopher John Brown, cum laude. Stephanie Nicole Brown. Joshua William Birch. Summer Lynn Bergin. Stephanie Marie Burke. Scott Richard Burns. Melissa K. Bird. Daniel David Byrne. Benjamin Charles Cable, summa cum laude. Michael Joseph Charles Campbell. Tara Lynn Carlson. Vivian Caro. Ryan Patrick Carr. Susanna Ruth Carithers. Melissa Lee Carter. Susan Ray Cartwright. Catherine Ann Case. Bartholomew W. Casida. Olivia Maria Cristina Castellini, cum laude. Jason John Chan, cum laude. Elizabeth Ann Chapman. Karen Michelle Chapello. Joseph Michael Cheshire. Edward Joseph Chu. Emily Chu. Ling Mei Chin. Young Sok Cho, cum laude. Paul Jerome Christensen, Jr. Blair Houston Clark. Christopher David Clark. Benjamin Philip Clemens. Joshua Leroy Clemens. Tracy Ann Close. Elizabeth Corinne Collier, cum laude. Jessica Lynn Collins. Muriel Jane Collison. Christina Noel Colon. James Brigham Combs, magna cum laude. Corey Ann Connor, cum laude. Kimberly Ann Connor, cum laude. Kelly Ann Conway. Jonathan Scott Cool, magna cum laude. Jennifer Nicole Combs. Clinton Harry Cooper. Matthew Austin Copeland. Margaret Claire Coyne. Clarinda E. Crawford. Kara Jean Crosby. Joni Lynn Crosley, summa cum laude. Frank Millington Crump IV. Andrew Michael Cooperson, cum laude. Demetra Devos. Bradley Hall Dawson. Stephen Mark Dellinger. Claudia Del Carmen Diaz. Connie Lene Dicken. Adam Michael Dill. Sean Michael Downey. Jessica Amber Drew. Vanessa Patrice Duckett. Megan Elizabeth Duffy. Shannon Dugan. Ryan Patrick DeLay. Richard Scott Eberly. Daniel Christian Allman, cum laude. Anna Willin Eidson. Jeremiah French Elrod. Krista Joy Engel. Elizabeth Ann English. Susanna Beal Enoch. Craig Andrew Erickson, summa cum laude. Nicholas John Evangelidis. Benjamin Chad Everson. Anne Marie Ewald. Amber Leanne Ewing. Benjamin Theodore Faden. Thomas Kevin Feeney. Pamela Gail Fisher. Bradley Michael Fleck. Bruce Lee Fleck. Garrett Purrington Flynn. Mark Douglas Folger. David Eduardo Fonseca. Catherine Lynn Force. Christopher Patrick Ford. Kelly Elizabeth Francis. Kristen Eileen Franklin. William Scott Freilich. Erin Leanne Fry. Sarah Ann Furman, summa cum laude. Jim Samuel Furman, magna cum laude. Marie Inez Galindo. Nicolita Marie Sagun Garces, cum laude. Edward Marcellus Garnes, Jr. Melanie Elise Garrett. Olin Bryant Garrett. Michael Glenn Garrison II, cum laude. Ayarinde Olobun Mi George. John Paul Georgie. Zachary Andrew Gertz. Stephanie Elaine Gerner. Anthony Charles Gibson. Julie Lynn Gilbert, summa cum laude. Kimberly Elizabeth Gilbert, summa cum laude. Danielle Corey Glickman. Matthew L. Glowacki. Elizabeth Ann Goldberg. Selena Diane Gonzalez. Cheryl Ann Gonzalez. Stacy Camille Goodwin. Diani Juanita Gordon. Lindsay Anderson Gottfried. Seth Gottlieb. Sharon Maureen Goff. Tiffany Nicole Gray, cum laude. Gavin Gregory Green. Megan McGoy Greaves, cum laude. Derek Andrew Gribler. John Michael Griffin. Molly Elizabeth Grimes. Allison Electa Grote. Jack Christopher Grubb. Patricia Ann Guagliardo, magna cum laude. Hillary Ims Gunther, summa cum laude. Sarah Ann Haberstroh. Elijah Abraham Haddad. Andrew Grant Hale. Carrie Jo Haley. Katie Colleen Haley, cum laude. Brian Michael Halliday. Bradley Scott Hallman. Joy Melanie Hansen. Kevin Doran Hare. Joshua Andrew Harrison. Kevin Michael Hartzell, magna cum laude. Jessica Grace Hayden, cum laude. Bradley Taylor Hayes. Michael John Hayes, summa cum laude. Laura Michelle Hickey. Catherine Semple Helt. Jacqueline Miriam Hirsch, magna cum laude. Kelly Virginia Hubline. Greta J. Hickman. Carvana Yvonne Hicks. Daniel James Higgins. Joseph Lee High. Dana Roshana Holdman. Joshua David Holton. James Michael Holtzhaus. Kristen Lynn Horan. Heather Ann Horton, cum laude. Maisha Janae Horton. Darlene Rose House, cum laude. Amy Conta Howard. Junko Hozumi. Laura Ann Hudson. Brian Gerard Holla. Hannah Hundessa. John Henry Hunt. Tyson Royce Huxell. Susan D. Hyatt. Katricia Rashawn Ingram. Sharmila Bhagya Isaiah. Melissa Midori Iwamoto, magna cum laude. Kelly Christine Jackson. Catherine Marie James. Robert Anthony Jaramillo. Teresa LaShawn Jeffries. Brian Wayne Jennings. Megan Marie Jennings, cum laude. Damon Michael Johnson. Catherine Michelle Johnson. Lindsay Jean Johnson. Marquita Danielle Johnson. Nicole Brooke Johnson. Emily Elizabeth Jones. Lindsay Sarah Joyce, cum laude. Scott Matthew Kalmus. Julie Marie Castle, summa cum laude. Leonica Renee Keilman. Tyler Frederick Kelly. Melissa Ann Kiefer, cum laude. Laura Elise Killen. Jennifer Elizabeth Klein. Jonathan Allen Klingensmith. Corey Elizabeth Klopsick, cum laude. Robert George Cohn. Christopher Jeremiah Kovac. Nathan Gabriel Kramer, magna cum laude. Teresa Marie Kruzman, summa cum laude. Nicholas Augustus Kriegel. Corey Ann Kushner. James LaBarbara III. Christopher Seabrook Landis, cum laude. Wayne McLean Lashua. Elizabeth Townsend Laughlin, magna cum laude. Colin Stephen Leary, magna cum laude. Kathleen Marie Leary. Walter John Lenkos. Scott Harry Leopis. Andrew Miller Lichter. Emily Christine Liffick. Letitia Corinne Liggett. Jamie Marie Lilly. Jeffrey Paul Lockhart. Rhonda Renee Long.
Yeah, it'll be a bigger practice.
Michelle Lynn Lorbieski. Naomi Christine Lundman. Krista Ann Luterman, magna cum laude. Catherine Ann Lux. Matthew Lee McPherson. Catherine Jennifer Manini. Aaron Lee Mashka. Michelle Malcolm. Andrew Kenneth Manning. Brian Philip Martin. Christina Therese Martin. Elizabeth Lynn Martin. Lynn Michelle Martin. Aisha Abeha Mason. Jana Dean Mathis. Lars Matzerath. Aaron Yukio Kunwo Mao. Courtney Blue Malden. Amy Rebecca McCall, magna cum laude. Allison Michelle McFadden. Molly Kristen McHugh. Shannon Amy McInerney. Justin Lee McKay. Jesse Scott McKinney. Christy Lynette McMeekin. Brian Clayton McNabb. Jennifer Meingasner. Joshua Mark Melton. Jacqueline Christine Menny. Thomas Hayes Menser. Heather Lee Myers. Heidi Marcia Middendorf, summa cum laude. Janet Elizabeth Miles, magna cum laude. Albert Reichman Miller, Jr. Laith Edward Miller. Lynn Marie Miller, cum laude. Omar Mohammed Minshawi. David Douglas Mitchell. Christopher Brooke Moan. Jeffrey David Mole. Janelle Renee Moore. Hugh Lloyd Andrew Morgan, Kelly Ann Morrison, Jerry Benjamin Monk, Blair Thomas Nafee, Russell Edward Newton, Nicole Chantel Nicholson, David Lewis Nye, Holly Joy Niflis, Beth Elaine Nolan, Heather Dawn O'Gara, David Ryan Ortman, Victor Javier Oswald, Holly Ann Otterman, Deanna Marie Owens, Jeffrey Allen Palmer, Ryan Charles Palmer, Abby Ray Pancoast, Timothy Townsend Pankey, Kimberly Ann Paradise, James Bradford Pate, summa cum laude, David Ryan Pieper, magna cum laude, Michael James Pierce, James Trent Pearson, Deborah Jacqueline Perez, Lara Lindsay Perry, John Gage Perriam, Naomi Latanya Petaway, Robert Charles Ferries Jr., Graham Patrick Phillips, cum laude, Catherine Lee Pitts, magna cum laude, Emily Louise Plemons, cum laude, Sarah Marie Porter, David John Posgay, Thomas Morgan Powell, Alexander Obadiah Pratt, Stephen Charles Presser, John Allen Price, Ryan Allen Proctor, Kara Christine Quilico, summa cum laude, Emily Bolor Rahimi, Jason R. Rabley, summa cum laude, Nicholas Aaron Raleigh, Peter Adolph Ramirez, Jennifer Ann Rainey, Marcus Carrega Rausch, cum laude, Matthew Lee Raymond, Kirsten Patricia Reinhardt, Jeremy David Riggle, Lavon Monzal Riley, Robbie Brian Robbins, Angelica Romero, Dustin James Romine, Jason Paul Roscoe, Michael Raymond Rother, magna cum laude, Travis Charles Rothrock, Bobby K. Reeder, Matthew Rule, Meredith Ellen Rumble, magna cum laude, Michael James Rusi, Minty Ann Russell, Jennifer Dawn Rutkowski, Kristen Lynn Sakalaris, Kristen Marie Saleb, Rachel Ann Sammons, cum laude, Lindsay Alyssa Sandman, Monica Marie Salter, Amanda Michelle Savage, Daniel Stephen Saxby. Brett Robert Schetzel, cum laude. Dawn Marie Schmidley. Jody Lynn Schmidt-Gosling, magna cum laude. Catherine Eve Schmier. Abigail Lynn Schunert. David John Schubert. Nanette Lee Schwartz. Lauren Michael Scott, magna cum laude. Jonathan Ray Seacrest. Jeremy Phelps Seitz. Catherine Elizabeth Selig. Camila Shahid. Rebecca Lynn Shaw. Clinton Woods Sheets, magna cum laude. Dakota Lee William Schultz. Karen Marie Schutt. Beth Marie Siedentopf, cum laude. Jacob Donald Simmons. Rebecca Olive Sinsheimer. Kelly Elizabeth Slager. Allison Marie Smith. Emily Carol Smith. Kenton Brian Smith. Michael Todd Smith, summa cum laude. Troy Adam Smith. Joanna Doreen Smoke. Anna Lucy Sobel, magna cum laude. Jeffrey Michael Soja. Christopher Michael Solmus. Catherine Lynn Sprinkle. Allison Marie Stasiak. Robert Eric Stanley. Kristen Steinbrecker. Heather Lynn Steinbrook. Jennifer Lynn Stephenson. Bradley Kent Stevens. Benjamin Lee Stewart. Sean Martin Cerisi. Christopher Allen Susant, magna cum laude. Adam Andrew Sweet. Grant David Talabay. Edward McFarland Tarbox. Robin Lynn Taylor. Matthew Jacob Tebby, magna cum laude. Peter Philip Tenike, cum laude. Catherine Lynn Tenzer. Brian Charles Theobald. Daniel Joseph Thompson. Angela Valerievna Tlushchenko, cum laude. Sarah Elizabeth Torpy, cum laude. Carrie Ann Muntz Travis. Chelsea Dagan Tripp. Perry Joseph Trowbridge. Emily Patricia Truxell. Michelle Suzanne Turner. Tracy Lynn Turner, summa cum laude. Emily Catherine Uphoff. Kelly Marie Van Busum, summa cum laude. Amy Kristen Van Herren, magna cum laude. Justin Tyler Vollmer. Kara Nicole Vosel. Richard Jordan Wachtman. Catherine Shower Walsh, cum laude. Jamie Williams Walker, cum laude. Matthew James Walker. James David Wall. Drew Anson Warner. Robert James Warren. Christine Marie Warrenberg. Brooke Victoria Washburn. Matthew George Watson, cum laude. Michael Aaron Wax. Ashley Lynn Wheatley. Kristen Ann Weichart. Brian Arthur White, cum laude. Teresa Jewel Wilhelmi. Amy Lee Williams, magna cum laude. Jeffrey Michael Willis. Heather Diane Wolf. Bradley Charles Woodard. Tiffany Lathay Woodard. Allison Shea Woodruff. Amanda Caroline Woodward. Michael Nash Woodworth. Kent Andrew Works. David Benjamin Wormser. Jennifer Marie Worth. David Nobuo Yoshida. Jennifer Elizabeth Zilke. Congratulations to all.
Like the DePauw presidents who held this office before me, I now read to the graduating class the same charge that has been read to graduating classes at DePauw for over 7 decades. I read it to you because the message in this charge is as valid today as it was when it was first offered. So I would ask the members of the class of 1999 to please stand. In advancing you to your degrees, I have admitted you to the company of graduates of DePauw University and have made you members of the larger company of university graduates elsewhere. You have entered into a community entrusted with a noble inheritance. You have earned these honors. You are the heirs of all the past. Men and women of rich mind have labored, and you have entered into their labors. Prophets and sages, scholars and scientists, poets and public servants have wrought with patience, and the abundant fruit of their toil is yours. It is yours to use, to increase, and to bequeath to your successors. We welcome you into this fellowship of seekers after truth and servants of righteousness. In the name of those who have gone before you, and of your daughters and sons who are to follow you, the university charges you to be strong, to acquit yourselves with dignity, and be loyal to your highest ideals. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. We charge you to hold your degree so it suffers no harm in your holding it, to hold it for the honest service of others, to hold it with untarnished honor to yourself. And be seated. Without quality faculty, it is clear that no university could ever perform its work. Today, we recognize members of the teaching faculty who have provided the university with uncompromised effort in regard to the classroom experience. I will present each of them with a DePauw University citation, which reads as follows. This citation is presented to you in recognition of your distinguished services as teacher, scholar, counselor of youth, and loyal administrator, which have contributed greatly to the cause of higher education and to DePauw University. I would now like to recognize Dr. Preston Adams, Professor Emeritus of Botany. Press has taught at DePauw for 38 years. William C. Cavanaugh. Bill has taught at DePauw for 34 years and becomes Professor Emeritus of English. Alan Eugene Pankratz. Al has taught at DePauw for 29 years and today becomes Professor Emeritus of Economics and Management. After this ceremony is concluded, I would like to invite each of you to a reception honoring today's graduates, which will be held in Bowman Park. Now let us stand for the benediction and the singing of a toast to DePauw.
We engage an attitude of reverence for a moment of meditation. We greet the source of all life, and we feel a spiritual presence in our midst. With our children, we celebrate this privilege. With our children, we stand in the presence of our Creator, and we share the joy. With our children, becoming more enlightened than we are, we stand in awe of our Creator and in fear. Let them find a heart of wisdom to remember in action and in deed the poor, the needy, and the disenfranchised. With our children, we feel the blessing that is ours and is about to be theirs, and we share the hope. We know there will be a good tomorrow. We feel it in our hearts and in our minds. And so we sing with the psalmist, who must have shared that feeling once. This is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen. Amen.
Let every son and daughter stand.